Good evening, Dot, and welcome to the Capital Talk. The story is not just in the Middle East. Tonight, the story is in your gas tank. It's in your grocery bill. It's in the price of everything that moves by ship across this planet. It has been 11 days since the United States and Israel launched what may be the most consequential military campaign of the 21st century against Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. 11 days since the bombs first fell on Tehran. 11 days since a narrow strip of water called the Strait of Hormuz, barely 21 miles wide at its tightest point, became the most important piece of ocean on Earth. And tonight, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is telling us the worst is still ahead. Let's get into it. Here is what we know at this hour. Number one, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced this morning that today, Tuesday, March 10th, is expected to be the single most intense day of airstrikes inside Iran since this conflict began. More jets, more bombers, more targets, more precision. His words, not mine. Number two, Iran's missile capability has collapsed. At the start of this war, Iran was firing roughly 480 ballistic missiles and drones per day. Tonight, that number stands at approximately 40. That is a 90% reduction. The U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs confirmed those numbers this morning. Number three, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively shut down. Before February 28th, 125 ships passed through that strait every single day. Tonight, a handful, a trickle. While you were sitting at your dinner table, the world's most critical energy corridor went silent. Number four, Iranian drones and missiles hit Dubai, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia overnight. In Bahrain's capital, Manama, a drone struck a residential building. A 29-year-old woman is dead. 8 others are wounded. Number five, President Trump says the war will end, and I'm quoting him directly here, very soon. But not this week. Let me take a moment and explain to you exactly why the Strait of Hormuz matters, because I think sometimes we throw around these geographic names without really stopping to feel the weight of what they mean. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway sitting between Iran to the north and Oman to the south. At its narrowest point, it is 21 miles wide. 21 miles. That's roughly the distance from downtown Manhattan to the New Jersey suburbs. Through that 21-mile gap passes, or rather, passed 20% of the world's oil, 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas. And here's the number that keeps me up at night. 1/3 of the world's fertilizer supply. 1/3. The fertilizer that farmers from Pakistan to Brazil to the American Midwest use to grow food. Close the strait, and you are not just raising fuel prices. You are threatening to raise food prices. You are threatening supply chains. You are threatening the wallets of working people on every continent on this earth. And here is the part that is almost hard to believe. Iran has not placed a single confirmed mine in the water. Not one. President Trump himself said this morning there are no verified reports of mines in the strait. And yet, the shipping industry has stopped anyway. Insurance companies have suspended coverage for the route. Tanker captains are refusing to sail through. Corporations are rerouting supply chains. One word, one threat, and 20% of the world's energy supply grinds to a halt. I spoke with maritime expert Sal Mercogliano of Campbell University earlier today. He put it better than I ever could. He said, you don't have to lay one mine to cause the problem. Just the threat of it creates consternation among shipping. Think about that. The most powerful navy in the history of the world is currently scrambling, not because of what Iran did, but because of what Iran might do. That is the terrifying genius of asymmetric warfare. A country that has lost 90% of its missile capability is still managing to hold the global economy hostage. Now, the U.S. military has not been sitting still. CENTCOM confirmed this morning that American forces have destroyed 16 Iranian naval vessels, specifically Milayers, near the Strait of Hormuz. The footage released by Central Command shows these vessels being eliminated in precision strikes. The message from Washington was blunt, and I want to read this to you directly because the language matters. Any boat or ship attempting to mine the Hormuz Strait will be dealt with quickly and violently. Quickly and violently. The U.S. has also rotated its minesweeping fleet in the Persian Gulf, replacing 4 aging wooden minesweepers, some of which had been stationed there for 35 years, with brand new littoral combat ships equipped with state-of-the-art minesweeping drone technology. But Mercogliano cautioned, and this is important, minesweeping is not a one-and-done operation. You cannot sweep a body of water once and declare it safe. You have to keep sweeping, keep watching, because Iran doesn't need a naval warship to lay mines. A simple wooden fishing vessel, called a dhow, the kind that has sailed these waters for centuries, can carry mines and drop them quietly from the stern. The sea hides its secrets well, and Iran knows these waters. Let's talk about what 11 days of the most intense American and Israeli air power in a generation has actually done to Iran's military machine. The honest answer is a lot, but not everything. Iran's ballistic missile forces have been devastated. Underground missile development complexes in Tehran and central Iran have been struck. Revolutionary Guard command centers have been hit. Military airports used by the Quds Force, the IRGC's elite external operations unit, have been targeted. Air defense systems have been knocked out. The Iranian Navy has taken catastrophic losses. President Trump claimed overnight that, quote, most of Iran's naval forces are at the bottom of the sea. Now, I want to be responsible here. These are American figures, wartime figures, offered by one side in an active conflict. We should not accept them uncritically. But when multiple independent defense publications, Western intelligence assessments, and even Iran's own behavior, which has shifted from offensive strikes to desperate threats, all point in the same direction, the overall picture becomes clear. Iran has been severely, seriously degraded. And then there is the question of oil. In the past week, U.S. and Israeli forces have systematically struck Iranian oil refineries and storage facilities. This is deliberate strategy, and it operates on 2 levels simultaneously. On the immediate level, it limits Iran's ability to fuel its own military operations. Things need fuel. Vehicles need fuel. Power stations need fuel. An army that cannot power itself cannot fight effectively. But there is a longer game being played here. Even after a ceasefire, whenever that comes, an Iran without functioning oil infrastructure cannot quickly rebuild its military, cannot fund a new missile program, cannot finance another proxy war. Every refinery destroyed today is potentially years of lost revenue tomorrow. This war is being fought not only to stop Iran now, but to limit what Iran can do 5, 10, 15 years from now. That is a strategic calculation of enormous consequence. And it is one that the people of Iran, ordinary people, who did not choose this government and did not vote for this war, will live with for a very long time. 8 days ago, on March 8th, something happened in Tehran that has received less attention than it deserves. Iran's assembly of experts convened and selected a new supreme leader. His name is Mojtaba Khamenei, and he is the son of the man who just died, Ali Khamenei, who was killed in an Israeli strike on the opening day of this conflict. Let that sink in for a moment. The Islamic Republic of Iran, a government that was founded on the explicit principle that religious leadership should be based on merit and scholarship, not bloodline, has just installed the son of the previous supreme leader. In effect, a theocracy has become a dynasty. Whether this was a desperate move by the Revolutionary Guards to maintain continuity of control, or a carefully planned succession that predated the war, we do not yet fully know. What we do know is this: the new supreme leader lacks the decades of religious authority and political legitimacy that his father accumulated over 35 years in power. And the IRGC, sensing the need to project strength in a moment of profound weakness, has been making increasingly aggressive statements in his name. This morning, the Revolutionary Guards declared that the era of, and I'm quoting their statement, light cluster missiles is over. From now on, they say, only heavy missiles with warheads exceeding 1 ton of explosives will be launched at Israel. Are they capable of this? Are these threats genuine? Or are they the last loud bark of a military force that has already lost most of its teeth? Military analysts are divided, and that division itself tells you something about the uncertainty that hangs over every assessment of this conflict. Iran is not limiting its aggression to Israel and American targets. It is fighting on a second front, one that is getting far less coverage, but may ultimately prove just as consequential for the stability of this region. Overnight and into this morning, Iran launched missiles and drones at 4 Gulf states simultaneously: Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. In Bahrain's capital, Manama, a 29-year-old woman was killed in a drone strike on a residential building. 8 people were wounded. Kuwait shot down 6 drones. Saudi Arabia intercepted 2 more. The Gulf air defense systems, upgraded with American technology over years, are performing well. But no system is perfect. And then there are the desalination plants. Iran has been targeting water desalination facilities across the Gulf, and I want to make sure you understand what that means. In countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, and Bahrain, between 70 and 90% of all drinking water comes from these facilities. They take seawater from the Persian Gulf and turn it into drinking water. There is no backup. There is no river. There is no aquifer large enough to compensate. If Iran succeeds in taking down major desalination facilities, cities across the Gulf could lose most of their drinking water within days. Not weeks. Days. This is not a military target. This is civilian infrastructure, the water supply of millions of people. And Iran is targeting it deliberately to signal that it can impose a humanitarian catastrophe on its neighbors if they continue to tolerate this war. It is a strategy as cynical as it is dangerous. I want to take a step back from the battlefield now, because beneath every airstrike report, every missile count, every ship tracker, there is a deeper question driving the most consequential decisions of this entire conflict. What happens to Iran's enriched uranium? Reports confirmed in both Washington and Jerusalem indicate that senior officials on both sides have been actively discussing a possible special forces operation, potentially involving Delta Force or Navy SEAL teams, to physically locate and secure Iran's known uranium stockpiles before they can be hidden, transferred, or, and this is the scenario that keeps intelligence officials awake at night, fall into the hands of a non-state actor. The reported amount in question is hundreds of kilograms of highly enriched material stored at underground facilities near Isfahan in central Iran. Let me be precise. This is not a confirmed, approved, active mission. Officials have characterized it as a discussion of options. But the very fact that it is being seriously considered tells you everything about what is truly at stake here. You can destroy a missile launcher. You can sink a warship. You can knock out a radar installation, but enriched uranium is different. It is small enough to be moved in the back of a truck. It is valuable enough that desperate people, or worse, ambitious people, might try to acquire it in the chaos of war. And once it disappears, once it vanishes into the fog of a collapsed state, finding it again may be impossible. This is the nuclear question that almost nobody is discussing openly. But it is driving decisions at the highest levels of government in Washington, Jerusalem, and reportedly in conversations between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who spoke by phone in recent days. Russia has offered mediation formulas. The details of those conversations have not been disclosed. But the involvement of Moscow at this stage is itself significant, a signal that the major powers are beginning to think seriously about the day after, even as the bombs are still falling. Let me bring you back to where we started. A 21-mile-wide strait, a threat that may or may not be real, and a global economy holding its breath. Here is the fundamental truth of Day 11. This war has passed the point where it is only about missiles and airstrikes and ship counts. It is now about time, about will, about who runs out of one or both first. Iran has been severely damaged. Its missile forces are at 10%. Its navy is largely on the ocean floor. Its oil infrastructure is burning. Its supreme leader is dead and replaced by a son whose legitimacy is questioned even within Iran's own political establishment. And yet, Iran is still launching, still threatening, still holding 20% of the world's oil supply hostage with nothing more than a word. Meanwhile, in Washington, in London, in Berlin, in Tokyo, ordinary people are beginning to feel this war at the fuel pump, at the supermarket, in their heating bills, Wars are not only won on the battlefield. They are won or lost in the patience of populations, in the resolve of governments, in the willingness of people who are not being bombed to continue supporting a campaign that is raising the price of their daily lives. Iran is betting that patience runs out in the West before the regime runs out of options in Tehran. Washington and Jerusalem are betting the opposite. One of them is right. We just don't know which one yet. We will be back with continuous coverage throughout the evening. Our correspondents are on the ground. Our analysts are at the desk. And we will bring you every development, verified, sourced, and straight as it happens. Stay with us.